You are listening to Viewpoints from Place Cloud. Cultural researchers tell stories of places from around the world. For the full multimedia experience and to support the creators you enjoy, visit placecloud.io.
We're standing outside St Pauls Cathedral, and King Henry VIII sits on the throne of England. During the 1510s and 20s, the first seeds of the Protestant Reformation had arrived on a powerful wind from Germany, where the ideas of the monk Martin Luther were shaking medieval Catholicism to its core. Although he was never a firm believer in the new way himself, King Henry was in a difficult position, which he found could be got out of by using the Reformation to his advantage. Adopting changes to the state of religion in England, Henry bypassed his acrimonious dispute with the Pope over his divorce to Catherine of Aragon by declaring himself the head of a separate Church of England. Then, the vast wealth of the kingdom's monasteries caught the attention of the cash-strapped king, who ordered their dissolution, with much of the profit going right into the crown's coffers. The rich religious tapestry of Catholicism, which had thrived in medieval England, was being pulled apart. While Henry ordered from above, his people took the new world he was ushering in at varying degrees of enthusiasm. While many were reluctant, others were far more enthusiastic than the king himself. At St Paul's, the shrine of St Erkenwald was plundered. Iconoclasm, that is the destruction of holy images, which was a mark of the Protestant Reformation, occurred across the country. One of these enthusiastic reformers was Henry's young son Edward, who succeeded to the throne and oversaw the full suppression of Catholic forms of worship and church fittings. This was done at St Paul's under the oversight of the first Protestant Bishop of London, Nicholas Ridley. The reformers were far from complete when the death of the boy King Edward saw his half-sister Mary, a devout Catholic, come to the throne. Mary was committed to restoring the splendour and grace of Catholic worship and began undoing the reforms of her father and brother. However, the death of Mary without children ushered in a change in the weather once again. The throne passed to her young half-sister Elizabeth, who with the new Bishop of London, Edmund Grindal, brought back in Protestant worship to England. After the physical destruction of the Reformation and uncertainty of England's religion, St Paul's was changed forever. In June 1561, the change was made even greater when lightning struck the cathedral spire, starting a fire which destroyed the steeple and roof. The heat and falling timbers caused such immense damage to the cathedral below that it would never fully recover. The new forms of worship were followed at St Paul's in the wake of the Reformation. The choir sang in English instead of Latin, and they used the new Book of Common Prayer. Under Elizabeth and her successor King James, St Paul's became a centre of thriving Protestant culture in England. The cathedral already had a long history as a place of commemoration, but some of the grandest tombs were added in the late 16th and early 17th centuries. One of the most remarkable is of John Donne, the poet, who after his wild youth became a clergyman and Dean of St Paul's from 1621 until his death. St Paul's, the building, however, had never fully recovered from the 1561 fire. Plans were made for restoration, and the architect Inigo Jones was set to carry out the work in the 1630s, but work halted at the outbreak of civil war in 1642. Parliamentary forces took control of London, and though their views on religion varied greatly among one another, they all largely differed from the previous status quo. The cathedral and its dean and chapter were dissolved, the Lady Chapel became a preaching auditorium, while the nave was used as a cavalry barracks, with at one point allegedly 800 horses stabled inside. By the 1650s, the building was seriously in need of repair. After the restoration of the monarchy in 1660, King Charles II looked to the leading architects of the day to propose solutions. Inspired by French and Italian architecture, Christopher Wren suggested the addition of a dome, which was agreed in August 1666. Just a week later, the Great Fire of London sparked in Pudding Lane, reaching St Paul's in the following days. The wooden scaffolding around the cathedral likely contributed to the spread of the flames and it fell in on itself. The fire was further fuelled by the thousands of books stored in the vaults, which had been leased to printers and booksellers as a safe place to store their wares. After the fire, St Paul's, and indeed the whole of London, would never be the same again, but they would rise from the ashes. I wonder what John Donne would have thought of the role of literature in bringing down the cathedral. In his poem, Air and Angels, he wrote what could have been an elegy for the old St Paul's. Twice or thrice I had loved thee, before I knew thy face or name. So in a voice, so in a shapeless flame, angels affect us oft, and worshipped be. Still when to where thou wert I came, some lovely, glorious nothing I did see.